It started with a single rock, not just any rock, but one with strange patterns that looked like bone. When paleontologists cracked it open, they uncovered not just fossilized remains, but an entire scene frozen in time, deep beneath layers of sediment. The remains of a deadly predator had been buried, perfectly preserved for over 70 million years. This wasn't just a fossil, it was a message from the past, waiting to be decoded. What could we learn from a creature entombed in stone? And why did it die here, in what seemed to be a sudden, violent end? These are the kinds of mysteries that lie within what we now call the Cretaceous crypt, a term for fossil sites where multiple predators have been discovered together, seemingly caught mid-action or clustered around mass death events. These crypts are more than graveyards. They're windows into a lost world, filled with clues about how these creatures lived, fought, and died. For years, scientists thought they understood dinosaur extinction, but recent discoveries have changed everything. The fossils aren't just bones, they're stories etched in stone, and some of those stories are disturbing, very disturbing. One of the most baffling discoveries came from the famed Hell Creek Formation in Montana. While most fossil beds contain a mix of herbivores and a few predators, this site was different. It held an unusual concentration of carnivores, T. rex, Dakota raptor, and other deadly hunters, all found in close proximity. It raised a disturbing question: why were so many predators buried together? Some scientists believe these were mass die-offs, possibly caused by droughts or toxic volcanic ash. Others propose something darker, a predator trap. Perhaps these animals were drawn to a dying prey animal or a water source, only to perish themselves. Whatever the cause, these sites force us to rethink our assumptions about the balance of nature in the Cretaceous period. The predator-to-prey ratio was supposed to be low, but here it was inverted. Something wasn't right. And then there's the question no one wants to ask: could some of these predators have turned on each other? Cannibalism among dinosaurs, once dismissed as fantasy, is now backed by fossil evidence. Bite marks onto rex bones that match the teeth of other rex individuals suggest they may have fed on their own kind, either in desperation or as part of their natural behavior. In what was once the island continent of Laramidia, modern-day Western North America, scientists have found an eerie pattern. Sites like Utah's Grand Staircase and New Mexico's Bisty Badlands hold clusters of fossils from predators like Teratophnius and Bistahiebersaur. These were not the biggest killers of their day, but they were fast, fierce, and cunning. What's strange is the positioning of their remains. Some are found with broken limbs, necks twisted, or jaws snapped mid-roar. These are not signs of slow decay. These are signs of sudden death. One theory is that these predators were caught in mudslides or flash floods, ambushed by the very landscape they hunted in. But another theory is gaining traction. Could these be sites of ancient conflict, territorial battles between rival packs? Some fossils show injuries consistent with combat puncture wounds to the skull, deep slashes on the ribs. If true, these crypts are not just graves, they're battlegrounds. And unlike in movies, there were no survivors to tell the tale, only stone remains. Forensic paleontology has begun treating these sites like crime scenes, analyzing blood flow patterns in fossilized bones and reconstructing how these animals fell. The truth is emerging slowly, but it's darker than we imagined. One remarkable discovery in Alberta, Canada, reveals a predator caught mid-chase. A Saurornitholestes, one of the smaller raptors, was found fossilized alongside the remains of a young ceratopsian. Their positioning suggests the raptor was leaping onto its prey at the very moment disaster struck, likely a sudden landslide or collapsing riverbank. It's a terrifying snapshot of life and death in the late Cretaceous, Moments like these don't fossilize often. It takes a perfect storm of timing, pressure, and sediment to preserve action. But when they do, they offer unparalleled insight into predator behavior. Clawed feet frozen midair, jaws open in a silent scream, tails curled for balance. These aren't skeletons. They're stories. It shows us these creatures weren't mindless brutes. They hunted with tactics, using speed and stealth, and their prey fought back, often fatally. The deeper we dig, the more vivid these scenes become. We see not just bones, but behavior, not just death, but the exact moment of it. The Cretaceous crypt holds memories of movement, of fear, of instinct, and of how close life always was to disaster. In a remote site in Madagascar, paleontologists uncovered something almost unthinkable: Majungasaurus bones, scarred with unmistakable tooth marks. The teeth matched the species itself. The conclusion: these dinosaurs practiced cannibalism, whether it was due to hunger, competition, or simply opportunism. The evidence was undeniable. These were not isolated cases, either. Multiple skeletons bore the same marks, clean bite impressions on limbs and ribs. This revelation changed how we view dinosaur behavior. The majestic image of a solitary predator, noble and fierce, gave way to a more brutal reality. These animals were survivors first, in harsh climates and under scarce conditions. Even the dead weren't left untouched. If meat was available, they took it regardless of where it came from. In a way, this mirrors behavior seen in modern predators. Komodo dragons and crocodiles are known to eat their own in times of need. Majungasaurus may have been no different. The caves and lowlands where they were buried tell a tale not just of death, but of a moral code that didn't exist in the Cretaceous. Survival wasn't about fairness. It was about being the last one standing. Some Cretaceous predator crypts reveal another unsettling truth. In several fossil sites, especially those near volcanic regions like India's Deccan Traps, bones show signs of a sudden internal failure, burst capillaries, odd bone lesions, and rapid tissue decay. Paleopathologists suggest exposure to toxic gases or heavy metals from volcanic activity may have killed these animals in waves. Imagine a pack of raptors stalking prey through a seemingly calm jungle. Without warning, a sulfurous cloud creeps in. Within minutes, they're disoriented, then collapse never to rise again. Their bodies, left untouched by scavengers due to the toxicity, become perfectly preserved. This silent death leaves behind fossil beds with no signs of trauma, just an eerie sense of calm. But under the microscope, the story is clear. These discoveries highlight that not all killers in the Cretaceous were creatures. Some were invisible airborne, geological, and just as deadly. It reminds us that these animals were not just hunters, they were also victims of a volatile Earth. Predators ruled the food chain, but they couldn't outrun poison in the wind. In Mongolia's Gobi Desert lies one of the most famous fossil sites ever discovered, the Flaming Cliffs. Here, in the dry red sands, paleontologists found the now iconic fighting dinosaurs fossil, a Velociraptor locked in combat with a Protoceratops. Claws are buried in the herbivore's neck, while the Protoceratops's beak grips the raptor's arm. It's a perfect scene of mutual destruction. How did it happen? Most believe they were suddenly buried by a collapsing sand dune or a powerful dust storm. But others think something even more shocking may have occurred, a predator ambush gone wrong, where neither party escaped alive. Either way, this fossil is a rare and intimate portrait of how dangerous life was in the Cretaceous. Even apex predators weren't safe. Other predators found in the Gobi show similar fates, buried quickly, surrounded by no prey, often in strange positions. Some had bones broken by force before burial. These weren't peaceful deaths. The desert, while deadly in its dryness, was also a trap for the bold. Many came to hunt, few left. While deserts have preserved many fossils, Swamps were no less dangerous. In places like the Judith River Formation in Montana, fossilized remains of predators like Spinosaurus have been found buried in ancient wetlands. These predators appear to have died in low-oxygen environments, where their bodies were quickly sealed in mud, preventing decay. But some skeletons suggest they didn't die alone. Fossils of two or more predators are often found side by side, entangled, as if in struggle. Deep scratches on ribs, dislocated jaws, crushed skulls. It tells of vicious infighting. Perhaps two rivals clashed over territory or mates, and both succumbed to their wounds. The wetlands acted like a tomb, preserving the outcome forever. No scavengers disturbed their rest, and the layers of mud held the pose they died in. When scientists unearthed these remains, they found more than fossils. They uncovered a final chapter in a long-forgotten rivalry. And in these moments, we remember, even among the strongest, victory was never guaranteed. Some of the most disturbing finds don't involve death in battle, but death in silence. In Argentina, researchers found a group of small theropods, all juveniles, huddled together in a tight cluster. There were no injuries, no predators nearby, just skeletons, curled and still. Scientists believe they died in their sleep, possibly from a sudden drop in temperature or exposure to toxic gases. This wasn't a fight. It was a quiet vanishing. These fossils reveal the fragility even among the fiercest. The same claws that could tear flesh couldn't shield them from cold or poison. The Cretaceous crypt holds not just the remains of monsters, but of innocence lost. For modern humans, it's a haunting echo. We often imagine ourselves as the masters of nature, but these fossils remind us that nature doesn't negotiate. In an instant, everything can change, and sometimes, the only witnesses to the fall of a species are the rocks that bury them. Inside the Cretaceous crypt, predators lie frozen in their final moments, not as museum trophies, but as silent testaments to a world both violent and fragile. These aren't monsters, they were real, breathing animals, subject to the same randomness that rules nature today. Some died in battle, others in disaster. A few, possibly betrayed by their own kind, their stories are still being written. Each fossil a sentence carved in stone, and as we uncover more, we're reminded of one chilling fact. Extinction is not a myth of the past. It's a pattern, a cycle, and perhaps a warning. What happened to them swift, final, and silent could happen again, not to reptiles, but to us. So next time you see a fossil, don't just think of it as a bone, think of it as a voice, and listen.